But I guess that's just the way the story goes. You always smile, but in your eyes your sorrow shows. Yes, it shows.
So I've been doing some reflecting reflections of my soul, reflections of my thoughts, reflections of my life. The very first people to ever say the words "I love you" in whatever language it was they spoke was, of course, I believe, Adam and Eve. Throughout humankind, throughout mankind, from the very beginning of time to the end of time, people will always say that when they find that person that they're supposed to be with. You know when you find that person you're supposed to be with. And how do you know these things? Well, let's see. They make you feel like nothing else matters except for the happiness that you both share. They make you feel like nothing can tear you apart, nothing. They make you feel like you're the best thing since sliced bread, I guess. I don't know. How do you compare love with bread? You don't. But we all need substance to survive, right? So, in an emotional sense, that's something that we all need love. Love is all you need. Even the Beatles knew that. Look at John and Yoko. Look at all the time they spent in bed. They stayed there, of course, in protest, but they were still together. They did that together. It wasn't one saying, nah, you do it on your own. I got things to do. I got places to go, people to see. They shared something in common. They had that familiarity. So if Adam and Eve was the very first to ever say I love you, the very first love story, which really wasn't the very first love story. The very first love story was when God had his plan to send his son to take on all our sins so that we could be forgiven. I was raised to believe that yes, we are all sinners. Yes, we've all fallen short of the glory of God. And yes, we can ask for forgiveness. I've also learned a lot about different religions and their take on what forgiveness is. I believe we have to forgive ourselves first if it's something that we don't want to partake in. But when it comes to the nourishment of our emotions, of our soul, love is love, is love, is love. There's nothing greater than the love of God for mankind. And the second thing I think that falls right underneath that is the love that a human being has for one another. Now, of course, there are people that think they are in love, and then they realize somehow it always happens to a lot of people, but somehow that just wasn't what they were looking for some various reasons, be it whether it be compatibility, be it whether it be that the other person lost interest for some strange reason, and the person involved becomes a piece of furniture or a slave or something that takes up space. That's not what love is. Love is unconditional. Love is something that two people have to work at together to make it work. It's not just I'll do this, but you have to do this. It's coming to an understanding, it's compromising, it's understanding and learning one another. Especially when you get down to it, when you're younger, you really don't have that much to go by. It's all trial and error. But as years go by, as years progress, you start to understand the meaning of what love is. You start to understand what it is that makes you happy. You start to understand what love really is all about when you feel lost without that person. I'm not saying to be needy. I'm not saying to be possessive because that's not love. I'm not saying to be controlling because that's not love. I'm saying that love is something that it takes two to make it work. The old saying, it takes two to tango, I guess applies to the dance. And we all have that dance that we have in our life. And we all find that perfect dance partner, whether it be right away and it just lasts and lasts, or we find it years down the road when we say to ourselves, wow, that's the person I should have stepped on the dance floor with. That's the person that knows my every move, my every thought, my every feeling. That's the person that makes me feel comfortable when their arms are wrapped around me or they're holding my hand. That's the person that really listens to me when I'm hurting, when I'm sad, when I'm feeling lonely, when I'm missing them. That's the person that knows what my dreams or what my thoughts are because that's the person I want to share it with. The person who makes me feel like nothing else matters to them but making me happy. Of course, there are other things that you have to do in life. Of course, there's family. Of course, there's a lot of things that come into play, but nothing but nothing should break apart what God has put together. A love that is so strong that is willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to. And of course, yeah, love is never saying that you're sorry, but also love is never being apart from the one that you love in whatever situation that you are in, whether it be in distance or whether it be in the same area or whatever. So if Adam and Eve were the very first to say, I love you, I wonder when and how it's going to happen. When will the last couple ever have that chance to say, I love you before our time here on this world is over? For everyone, not just for us, when what's called Judgment Day comes. Now, we're the ones that have to answer for what we do. And yes, we all strive to be better people. Yes, we all strive to understand and to live our faith. And yes, we all forget that we are all human beings, that we're all going to make mistakes, that we're all going to do things that we're told we're not supposed to do. But then you start to ask yourself, why are we told that we can't do something that makes us happy? Could be a lot of reasons. And I'm not here to discuss, debate, or take away from anything any of us are ever told by clergymen, counselors, parents. It's something that we as an individual feel internally and externally. I've learned that when you really love someone and that person is no longer around, I have learned that you ache. You truly, truly ache. Not just in your heart, not just emotionally, but your whole body aches. You cry. You don't want to eat. You don't want to sleep. And it's not that we are punishing ourselves. It's just that we start to slowly lose our existence and our reasonings for wanting to exist. And I kind of like put it in an example in this manner. It's like always giving that child that cookie jar to reach into. And it's a pattern that they have. Or really, but it's something that that child looks forward to because they got used to it every day. Here's your cookie. Here's something you enjoy. Here, take it. And then when that cookie jar is out of reach, that child usually goes and finds a ladder or a chair and tries, tries their best to get to it, but they can't because it's out of reach. So what do? They walk into the kitchen and they just keep looking at that cookie jar, just knowing somehow, some way, someday it'll happen again. I was raised that if two people are meant to be together, they'll be together. They'll do whatever it takes to be together. I was also raised that if you're in a relationship, marriage that is, that you're supposed to work it out if things don't work out. But here's the thing that I also learned from the very person that told me that, who is a doctor of theology, a minister, who never went and said that if you give me $500 in the offering plate, God will double that. He wasn't that kind of guy. He was my father. And he also understood what it meant to lose the one you love. Here's a story I'm going to share with you, a true story, the story that happened a long time ago, but not to me. There was this minister that was out doing what is called a revival. He was gone for a week. His wife and his children knew that he was going to be gone. His firstborn son, his firstborn daughters knew that he was going to be gone. His wife knew that he was going to be gone for a week. But this was way before text messaging, cell phones, emails. You had Western Union and landlines. So this man reached the destination of the town he was supposed to preach at for a week every night, a revival is what they called it. And he did so, and he called every night to speak to his children and to the woman that he was married to, the mother of the children. The last two nights of his revival, things were getting intense. There were a lot of people coming in and flocking in to the tent revival that they used to have years ago, that they stopped having. People stopped having tent revivals. Maybe they still do. I don't know. So he went about doing his things, preaching the gospel, saving souls, saying the prayer with them. And at the very last night of the revival, the minister of the church that invited him to do the revival in that town thanked him and handed him an envelope with the collection that they took. That minister did not want to take any type of payment or anything, but they insisted this is for your time, this is for your expenses. You can use this for your church or however you want to. It's yours now. So rather than going back to the hotel that he was staying in, he decided, I'm going to go ahead and take this long ride home. And it was a long ride home, a very long ride home. By the time he reached the destination of where he was living, he stopped at an all night diner, wanted to get something to eat so that he wouldn't wake his wife up, make any noise. It was late, it was about 4 in the morning. Ordered his coffee, what he called Irish pancakes, which were a stack of pancakes with sausage on the side and three sunny side eggs on top. Had his breakfast, talking to the people there at the counter of that diner. And as he was getting up to make the payment for his food, the waitress said, "It's on us, preacher." The minister said, "But wait a minute, why?" And she just said, "It's on us. patted him on the hand, and said, "By the way, I'm sorry about your loss." The minister was confused. What did she mean, "I'm sorry about your loss"? As he's driving down the road, which is about maybe, if I recall the story correctly, it's about maybe another 10 minutes. He noticed on the side of a road that there was this damaged area. It was a country road that you could see from the main road. Looked like trees were messed up, like there was some kind of crash. Come to find out that his wife had met up with someone. True story. She met up with this truck driver that she had been talking to. They met up in his other car, the minister's other car, on that dark country road. In the process of doing their thing, they didn't hear and didn't see an oncoming truck, a huge garbage truck or whatever it was, I can't recall, slammed into that back end of that car, instantly killing both of them. That minister was so full of rage, so full of anger. He couldn't understand what happened. Why did God allow this to happen? He actually went out into a field and challenged God. Come on down. If you want to take something from me, come on down and take me. I'll fight you. And then he realized what he was doing. He dropped to his knees and he prayed and he cried. And he came to realize that it wasn't his fault. It was nothing that he did that made it happen. It was her choice. So her family came and got the kids and stuff while he was making preparations for the funeral. And he thought to himself, how am I going to do this funeral? I'm sure that everybody knows what happened. I'm sure everybody's going to be staring at me. I'm sure people are going to be feeling sorry for me. But none of those things entered his mind. He went ahead and did the funeral. In the process, he didn't realize that the family of that woman were taking his children far, far, far away, and he never got to see them again. And he cried nights. Fast forward many years down the road, he meets someone. He wasn't looking, he wasn't asking for another person to come into his life. He just met her. The most beautiful voice, he said, that he heard singing in the choir behind him while he was preaching at a church he was invited to. The most beautiful angelic voice he ever heard. Incidentally, right after the service, the deacon of the church, which happened to be that woman's uncle, had invited him over to their house to eat afterwards. Lo and behold, that woman that was in the choir was there. Things in common. When hearing this story, that's where I first learned the word familiarity. That's the first time I ever understood what synchronicity meant. There are so familiar things between those two, even though there was an age difference. But it was like he said, it was if they've known each other for years and years and years and years. He even said, I really don't know if I believe in this, but maybe, he said, maybe we knew each other in another life as well. Most people said that, well, it wasn't right for him to fall in love with someone else. Most people say that, well, I've been married, I lost my other half, and I've never remarried again. That's most people. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody is that. I don't have the right phrasing for that, but he found who he's meant to be with. Through tragedy, through darkness, everything that he went through. And years, for years and years and years, they stayed together. They had 3 wonderful children. One who ended up getting mistreated while the other 2 didn't. But that was something he couldn't foresee. That was something he didn't know was happening. She did. And that little boy that was getting mistreated, but yet so loved and so protected of his family that he couldn't say anything about it. The story I told you is true. I know it's true because my father would have never, ever lied to me about anything like that. But he also told me in my life, in my failed relationships, in my failed marriages, I know it's not your fault. I know you're not the one that went out and did what they did. I know you were faithful. I know you took care of the kids. It's not on you. They weren't happy with you for whatever reasons, but they got what they wanted. They got their children. They got their child support. They completely forgot all about you. But he said, one day, I promise you, son, you'll find her. And I kept asking him after all this time I was getting hurt, why does this keep happening to me? His very words to me was so that maybe it'll help you understand what it is to have got that's really, really important to you, that you really, really and truly love. And he always, always reminded me whatever God has joined together, let no man put asunder. No man can tear it apart. No man can take that apart. The only way that can happen is if one of the two says, this is not worth it to me. This is not worth the hassle for whatever they consider a hassle. I've been a lot of things in my life. The only time I ever stole anything was when I was a kid and I got my ass whipped for it. Didn't do that again. I never said anything contrary to what I was raised. I always try to do good by what I was raised by. But I also understood too that when the time came, I would know it. When the time came, I would know that it was real. And it is. Very real. Completely real. 100% real. Undying real.
Last night I drifted somewhere between the dark and dawn, where the world grew quiet and somehow you were drawn out of the shadows like you'd always lived inside my mind. You touched my face so softly, like you've been waiting for the right time. Your fingers trace my skin like you already knew the map of me. And I swear I felt your heartbeat echo in my chest so naturally. I tried to tell myself it's only sleep, but everything felt true. The warmth, the breath, the closeness pulling me deeper into you. And I wondered if your spirit wandered to the same place mine did. If you felt the pull between us gentle, impossible to forbid. Because the way you held me wasn't something dreams usually know. It felt like memory, like destiny, like something real below. I don't wanna wake up if waking means losing you. I don't want the morning stealing what the night let me do. Your kiss lingered on my lips like a promise meant to stay. And I reached for you again as the dream began to fade away. Tell me, wherever you are, did your heart feel it too? 'Cause I swear every part of me believed in you. We walked through places I've never seen, but somehow recognized, like they were built from pieces of your soul and pieces of mine. You laughed and the sound wrapped around me like a warm embrace, and I held you close enough to memorize the shape of your face. Your lips brushed mine again, slow enough to make me fall. And I whispered, don't go, though I wasn't sure. I said it all. You looked at me like you heard it, like you understood the plea, like you didn't want to leave either, like you wanted to stay with me. And I keep replaying every second, trying to hold the edges tight, because dreams dissolve like smoke when they meet the morning light. But this one clung to me, heavy, sweet, impossible to shake. A feeling too complete, too vivid to be fake. I don't wanna wake up if waking means losing you. I don't want the sunrise breaking what felt honest, deep and true. If dreams are all I have of you, I'll hold them like they're real, 'cause nothing in my waking life compares to how you made me feel. And so I fall asleep again, hoping you'll return to me, hoping you'll step back into that place where our hearts move free. 'Cause every time the night pulls me through, when I dream of you, it seems so real. So I fall asleep again, hoping you'll return to me, hoping you'll step back into that place where our hearts move free. 'Cause every time the night pulls me through, when I dream of you, it seems so real.
So, what would the world be like without love? It's another thing I've had plenty of time to think about. Be surprised at things that go through your mind when you can't sleep. You'd be surprised the things that go through your mind when you can't eat. So there wouldn't be any warmth behind the word anymore. There wouldn't be I got you. There wouldn't be I miss you. There'd be no reason to stay. I mean, people would probably still talk about it. It would sound like a transaction more than anything, I guess. Maybe conversation would sound like an instruction instead of a connection. Possibly, maybe, smiles would still exist. But I don't think that would mean anything. I think without love, there's no attachment. Without attachment, there's no value placed on another person. It's not just in relationships. I mean, like our families, all they will become to us is just shared DNA. Friendship just becomes convenient. Importantly, I think loyalty will even disappear. And making those sacrifices, it wouldn't even make any sense. I mean, why would you want to protect someone if you don't feel anything for them, right? Empathy would just fade away, not all at once, but slow like a dimmer switch being turned down. I think a lot of things would happen in the situation when love did not exist, when the word was not ever spoken between two individuals, if it was never felt. I think music would lose its soul. I think art would feel mechanical. I think laughter would sound off. There wouldn't be no heartbreak, but there wouldn't be any joy. And no longing, but also no belonging. And no phone ringing either. I don't have any missed calls. I have nothing on this phone but a tear stained glass on the front of it. Now, the real truth is, if you're even asking this question, love has not disappeared because that ache, that curiosity, that weight in your words, that comes from love. Now there's a phone ringing, and 1 second, please.
Now, in every part of your body, is this real?